The whole earth is filled with the goodness of the Lord. On this week's episode of Pray-a-Thon Global Impact Report, we'll be highlighting just a few of the most inspiring positive developments taking place all over the world as a result of the prayers of God's people. Did you know that the non-stop Global Pastor Chris Live Pray-a-Thon has been running for more than 3 years now? Every 15 minutes of every day, week and month, Christian groups from all walks of life and from nearly every nation on earth have been leading and participating in sessions of non-stop prayers. Each week, the founder of the Global Prayer Network, Reverend Dr. Chris Kilmer, sends out prayer guides as directed by the Spirit. And we've seen the goodness of God manifested in positive changes around the world. In recent times, we've been proclaiming God's blessing and favor over all countries, praying earnestly for the peoples and leaderships of nations, and especially for ministers of the gospel and churches of Christ around the world. Here are some of this week's most inspiring impact reports. Watch this. Glorious highlights from Easter celebrations across the world, from Antigua to Haiti, Nigeria to Romania, Ethiopia to Greece, Guatemala, the United States, India, Spain, England, Bolivia, Panama, Italy, South Africa, Colombia, Lithuania, Germany, Kenya, Paraguay, and beyond. Christians across the globe commemorated the Holy Easter season in grand fashion, with many witnesses added to the church as a result. Taking advantage of the post-COVID era, in cities around the world, Christians organized massive crusades, grand public processions, dramatic biblical reenactments, praise services, and other solemn services and outreaches in public remembrance of the death, burial, and resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ, despite persecution in some regions. In Old Jerusalem, shouts of "Christ is risen" filled the air as thousands of Israeli, Palestinian, and visiting Christians alike held a special Easter service in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the nearby streets, despite gathering restrictions imposed by the Israeli government. In Nicaragua, despite a government ban on public demonstrations and other recent persecutions of the church, the Easter celebrations continued in earnest as millions of believers commemorated Easter on church grounds across the country. Record harvests roll on in the world's largest soybean producer, Brazil. The nation's Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Food Supply noted that its growers will produce 153.6 million metric tons of soybeans this year, more than 20 million metric tons more than last year's yield. Global soybean ending stocks were forecast by the agency at 100.3 million metric tons, up from 2022. In corn production, Brazil also reported its expectations for the country to reach a record 124.9 million metric tons, more than 8 million tons greater than 2022's corn harvest. More Arab and North African nations move towards peace as the prospects of ending Saudi Arabia's 8-year war in Yemen grow. With ongoing peace talks between the two nations in Sana'a, more nations in the Middle East and North Africa have taken notable steps towards restoring peace between their nations and in the region as a whole. Syria has announced its plans to reopen its embassy in Tunisia after 10 years of absence. Egypt and Turkey put years of tensions behind them, with mutual plans to reappoint ambassadors announced at a joint news conference held by both foreign ministers. Gulf nations Bahrain and Qatar have agreed to restore diplomatic relations after a 6-year blockade. An exchange of more than 800 prisoners from all sides of Yemen's 9-year conflict began on Friday as peace in the Middle East continues to advance. NGO Skills for Life project empowers 19,000 schoolgirls in northern Nigeria. 450 schoolgirls last week were the first of a targeted 19,000 young girls from some selected schools across Katsina State, northern Nigeria, to receive a 3-day intensive training on the production of disinfectants, liquid washing soap, and other products in commercial quantities, in an effort to help create new pathways for them to become self-reliant during and and after their time in school. The Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment are in the process of administrating these trainings statewide, teaching profitable vocational skills to over 19,000 young girls and 17,000 young boys. Last Monday, a panel of 3 judges in federal court upheld the district ruling that the Kentucky administration should pay $272,000 in attorney fees to the Christian plaintiffs who sued the state over Democratic Governor Andy Beshear's COVID-19 lockdown policies on churches. During a Good Friday press conference in 2020, Beshear declared a lockdown on physical church attendance under threat of jail time, enforced quarantines, and/or the revoking of licenses for non-compliant churches. Ignoring this, dozens of Christians, including the plaintiffs, proceeded to worship the Lord in church and were soon met with quarantine orders. 3 years after their successful lawsuit against the governor, the recent verdict marks another victory for the right to Christian worship in Kentucky. Education and health sectors in Morogoro receive aid from Tanzania's NMB Bank as part of its corporate social responsibility to create shared value for communities where the bank operates. Tanzania's NMB Bank has donated building materials and hundreds of desks and chairs, as well as much-needed maternity delivery beds to respective local primary schools, secondary schools, and hospitals in communities in Morogoro. Beneficiaries and local government officials alike attest to the benefit these materials will bring to the community's education and health sectors. To join the man of God, Pastor Chris, and millions around the world in effecting global change through prayer, visit pastorchrislive.org today. Schedule your 15-minute prayer session in the non-stop global prayer chain. Participate live in global prayers with the man of God and millions more, for at least 15 minutes every day. And follow the Pastor Chris Live super user on King's Chat for weekly global prayer guides. Share your reports on the impact of praying with Pastor Chris Live in your life and where you live on King's Chat using the hashtag #PrayingNow, #Pray-a-Thon 2023, #PCL Pray-a-Thon 2023, #I am a priest in office, and #YourCountry. Or send a message to @Pray-a-Thon 2023 on King's Chat. The Pastor Chris Live Prayer Network, effecting global change through prayer.